Well, Garland Nixon here, and Tulsi Gabbard has left the Democratic Party. Donald Trump is calling for peace, and the people in the EU are understandably freaking out. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and it is Tuesday night. And you know what happens tomorrow morning? Every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., the one and only Scott Ritter for an hour. So you better be ready for that. All right. So what's going down? Oh my God, it's big things happening, big doings going on. And let's start with the one and only Tulsi Gabbard. Let me give you a little history on Tulsi Gabbard. I believe the year was 2020. And she announced that she was going to run for, Tulsi Gabbard, the word was out that Saturday morning, Tulsi Gabbard is running for president, and Garland Nixon hopped on a plane, and it was cold as crap here. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it might have been snowing when I left. I don't remember. Got on a plane and flew 12 stinking hours to Honolulu. I guess that's where I was. And got off the plane in Hawaii. And I attended Tulsi Gabbard's announcement, right? And let me go one further. The year was 2016. Garland Nixon was at the convention center in Philadelphia, or whatever the hell it was, some arena or something in Philadelphia. And I was covering the Democratic Party's convention. I was covering it for the Pacifica, which is radio. I do radio show on it. And I was also covering it for Fox. Fox News had a big tent there. And I was going, that's when I was still on Fox. I was doing Fox Business Channel. I was doing regular Fox. So I'm over there doing radio shows. And then I'm over to the Fox, regularly, on different shows. I think I was on like Cavuto, a bunch of different people. I had a blast covering that. But bottom line was, why did I say all that? Because in 2016, they were like, well, Garland, let's just have a little fun. 4 years from now, who do you like? And I said, Tulsi Gabbard. And they said, why? I said, because she's anti-war and she's my kind of person, right? That was 2016. 2020 comes, Tulsi Gabbard says, I'm running. Garland hops on a friggin' plane and flies to Honolulu, and watched her that and all that kind of stuff. I got within a few feet of Tulsi Gabbard, right? And of course, that day they attacked her. I'll never forget. I got there on whatever day I got there. I think it was a Saturday morning that it happened, and I think I might have got there Friday, whatever the case may be. And there was a big article in NBC News that morning, the morning that Tulsi Gabbard announced that she was running for president. NBC News did this giant article, and it was, the Russians have found their candidate and they attacked Tulsi Gabbard, right? Went after her, and guess who they had a picture of? Me. I guess it was a black Russian, right? And so at any rate, NBC News had an article where they attacked Tulsi Gabbard, and of all things, they literally had a picture of me in the article. It was crazy. But at any rate, 2020 came and she ran, and there are a lot of people who on the left who got a little upset with Tulsi because she's conservative, very conservative in some ways, and she's freaking people out with her conservative nature. And I'm like this. I'm not going to find, let me say this about Tulsi Gabbard. Does she say things that I don't like and I don't agree with at times? Yes. Yeah, sure. But I have yet to find a candidate that doesn't. So I would say this. There's my foundation is an anti-war, anti-imperialism, stop going around the world killing people, doing all this kind of stuff, starting wars. And if I can find a candidate that says that, that's a pretty good start. You gotta crawl before you can walk. So I supported Tulsi. And again, she said some things that I thought were wonderful. She said some things that I thought were crappy, but overall, I'm okay with Tulsi. And I tell you why. You've probably heard me say this before. Because at least Her politics are based on realism, right? She has the politics of facts, the politics of basically, let me put it like this. She has a fact-based politics as opposed to narrative-based politics, right? You go to the Democratic Party, it's all narrative-based politics. They come up with something. Putin's scared. Well, they just come up with that because they want to bamboozle you about whatever the hell. Well, they've decided that Putin's scared about something. They don't know, like, whether he's happy, scared, or not, but it works. There's a new narrative. And everybody in the Democratic Party works. Well, you'll turn on MSNBC, CNN. Well, since Putin's scared, what about this? Well, since Putin's scared, we should do this. But go to Fox. Go to the so-called conservative stations, and for the most part, with other than maybe Tucker Carlson and a few other people, you hear the same thing. Once the mainstream media, once the intelligence community comes up with a narrative, all of the mainstream people go along with the narrative. Well, here's what I like about Tulsi Gabbard. She's not a narrative-based politician. She's a fact-based politician. So I think politician, and now that's very important. When we're looking at politicians, you may disagree with somebody, but I can disagree with somebody based on the facts. But if somebody comes up and they're just pushing the latest CIA narrative and it's full of crap, then there's, as we say in Zen, the lion and the shark can never battle, for there is no common ground, right? If there is no fact-based argument, if it's a narrative-based argument, how do you argue with somebody based on bullshit? Hey, we must do this. Why? Because Putin is a werewolf. But there's no such thing as werewolves. Enough of you. Putin's a werewolf. And they all agree. And they will all, if the CIA said tomorrow, Putin's a werewolf, everybody in the Democratic Party would say, well, what are we going to do? The full moon's coming. We've got to act. The man's a werewolf. Nobody would say, hey, is there such thing as werewolves? Well, Tulsi Gabbard is gone from the Democratic Party because she was the person who, in the back of the room, when they all said, how are we going to deal with that? Oh my God, we got to get silver. It's silver bullets we need. What do you think? Well, I don't know. We just stay away from stay away from during the full moon. They'd be having that kind of discussion. And in the back of the room, Tulsi Gabbard would stick her hand up. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. Yeah. There's no such thing as werewolves. And they throw her out. Oh my God, did you hear what she said? She's a Putin bot. Of course you'd say that. That's exactly what a werewolf lover would say. And they'd have to throw her out of the room. So she left herself. So regardless of the things that I agree or disagree with Tulsi, and I'm sure with current conservatives, they'll probably look at her in some areas, she's liberal and left as hell for them. In some areas, she's right as hell for me. Yeah, is that a bad thing? Not necessarily to me. But at least she is fact-based. You can get somewhere if you start with someone who will accept the fact. We don't have to, first of all, we don't agree on the facts. The facts agree on themselves. Well, let's agree on the facts. If it's a fact, there's no need to agree on it, right? Based on our convention of colors, right? What we blue, red, green, yellow, or as what in the spectrum, Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, right? Based on that, we have a blue sky. The sky's blue based on our convention of this is what blue is, right? Well, if somebody says, okay, the sky's blue, well, we've decided that it's magenta. Well, how do you argue with somebody? Then they've decided based on the CIA, it benefits them best if it's magenta. So they're going with that's the new narrative. The sky is magenta. And how do you argue with someone who just goes with this narrative? And you're like, but it really is blue. Shh, we decided it's magenta. That's what we're going with. Wink, wink. They know. Some of them know they're lying. Some of them they don't care. They just go along with the machine. Here's my point. Tulsi Gabbard ain't a machine person. She pushes back on the machine. I kind of like that. Even when she some of the things that she said when she was leaving, right? I didn't agree with all of it. I didn't think all of it was great. But here's what I thought was great. We got to stop these wars. She's been saying for a while, we've got to stop this new Cold War against Russia and China. Now, some of of course, and here's what you're going to get. The people who have been mentally hamstrung on the Democrats are going to go, oh, she said we're not allowed to hate Russia. And their poor little, addled brains are going to be angry at her because they are a member of a cult. And in that cult, you're supposed to hate Russia. Now, there's conservatives who are in an anti-China cult. And when she says, oh, we don't need to go after China, we need to resolve our issues, they'll go, oh, no, she didn't say that she's going to not start a war with the Chinese Communist Party. She's got to go. Well, if that's your position with either Russia or China, little do you know you're the same person. You don't understand this. The rest of us, I understand this. You are the same person. You just can't see it. You are standing in a mirror looking at yourself. The CIA have told you to hate Russia. The CIA has told you to hate China. And what you've done is you're saying, I'm not going to take the whole meal, but I'll take one of the dishes. Which dish will I take? Well, the China. Okay, I'll take the China dish. The CIA is serving both dishes. You're getting served. It's being cooked in the same kitchen and served by the same people. It's just that one brain dead, brainwashed cult chooses Russia to hate. The other brain dead, brainwashed cult chooses China to hate. But both of them believe that as their country goes to shit and falls apart around them, that what they should be doing is looking at other countries in the world, criticizing them as theirs goes to hell. So I can't help you if you're either a member of either one of those cults. If you're not like, look, I ain't got time for Russia and China. We got to fix this country. We're $31 trillion in debt, and we're run by a guy who doesn't even know what friggin' country he's in. And we've got two war parties who could give a crap if every one of us drops dead. And from the looks of things, they're kind of moving in that direction with nuclear war. If you can't understand that we got bigger fish to fry than going around the world trying to tell Russia and China what to do and hate on them or Iran or Cuba or whoever the hell, you're probably on the wrong YouTube channel right now anyway. You probably should go to, like, I don't know, RachelMaddow.com or one of these other conservatives who, will tell you how bad you guys should, how important it is that we go start a war with China. I ain't there. Okay. Not there. So at any rate, all I'm saying about Tulsi is this: for whatever complaints I may or may not have about her, when it comes to foreign policy, I'm with her. And I'm not even saying she's perfect there. She was saying something about drones or something one time that a lot of people didn't like. Okay. But let's start with ending the Cold War so we don't get nuked. And once we come down off of that, we can kind of, work things from there. Okay. You got to crawl before you can walk. I'm ready to at least crawl there. Right. And what's interesting is this: it makes me think either one of two things happens. Either she joins the Republican Party, wouldn't surprise me, or she becomes an independent, runs in 2024 as an independent. Maybe she'll run in 2024 as a Republican. I don't know. I have no idea. But keep in mind something about Trump and Biden. Both of these people are talking about, hey, I'm going to run in 2024, right? Well, I mean, Biden's will be 80 something or something like that. Trump will be 78, 79. These are not young men. They may be talking, but I mean, I'm far younger than a lot of men, many years younger than either one of those guys. But my point is this: I wake up, look, I go to sleep and wake up every morning with one eye at a time to make sure I'm still alive. So if I was 79, 78, I sure wouldn't be thinking about running for president. I'd be trying to enjoy right now, not knowing how much longer I have. I think of that now, right? So, the fact of the matter is this: all this talk about Biden, I don't see how Biden runs, for God's sake, after the disaster, if we're still alive, which I suspect we will be, and the disasters that Biden's going to go. And might I add, the Republicans, they're going to, go after him. They're going to investigate him for everything in the world. So, Biden, I don't think it's going to be a pleasant 2 years for him. And I don't think if first of all, not only that, as demented as he is now, I don't think he's going to be in any mental condition to run by 2024. He ain't in a mental condition to run right now if he had to run. He ain't in a mental condition to be president right now. So let's just not even think about that. And again, as I said about Trump, who knows? It could be Tulsi Gabbard at Trump and get Trump Gabbard 2024. I wouldn't be mad at that. Let me tell you why. Trump ain't a young man. I mean, the reality is something could happen. Him and Tulsi could run, and something could happen to Trump. He could get sick. He could get ill. He could get whatever. I mean, he'll be friggin' almost 80 years old, and then Tulsi would be president. Now, let me add one more thing to it. JFK. Okay, I think the intelligence communities have, let's face it, is there anything they haven't done now? Do they really care anymore? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they just grab them and choke them. If Trump was running, if like some CIA hitmen didn't just grab them in the middle of the street and choke them out in front of everybody. They don't seem to give a shit anymore if we know what they're doing. I mean, we can see them. They're right in front of us. And the mainstream media right in front of us, they're doing everything. They don't even care anymore. They've gotten to a point, they're total totalitarians. We have the power. We're going to keep the power. Nothing else nothing you can do about it. Screw you. So let's see where Tulsi goes. Could she go to the Republican Party? Could she go independent? I'd like to see her independent in a way. And then again, now here's another argument. Green Party or something like that. Why? Ballot access. The Green Party has ballot access. Now, I'm sure the Green Party, but I'm just saying, if the Libertarian Party, some party that had ballot access, that may be an idea for her to run. But I hope she runs. I hope Tulsi Gabbard runs to throw a monkey wrench in the system. And as I said, if her and Trump or her or whoever if somebody look like they're going to win, it's not the political image of John McCain, you can look for an attempt to be made on their lives by the deep state. Yeah, it's Novichok. Obviously the Russians, right? Novichok. I mean, at this point, when you hear Novichok, I think that's like something maybe I'd sprinkle on my cereal. It's probably like the next superfood or something. Let's face it. Clearly, either one of two things. Either Novichok doesn't kill anybody, or they're bullshitting us and lying. And I suspect they're bullshitting us and lying about the Novichok. All right, on we go. I'll put it like this. Somebody said she's got my vote. If I had to pick between Trump and Biden and Tulsi, first of all, Biden ain't getting my vote under no circumstances. Very few circumstances Trump's getting my vote. I'd vote for I mean, normally I write in, Jesse Ventura or something, right? But I'm just saying, I would if I had a choice of those maggots, and I have somebody who says I don't want to go to war and I want to end the if I have somebody running that says I want to end the Cold War, I vote for her. I would, even with some areas that I'm not thrilled about. You can't have all meat and no gravy. I always say yes, I would vote for Tulsi Gabbard based on this flock of morons and dangerous nutcase neocons that we have now. I'd vote for Tulsi Gabbard. Yes, I would over them. All right, let's move forward. Look at this. Look at this. Looky here. Looky here. Looky here. Looky here. I got something to show you. Donald Trump calls for negotiated peace in the war. Donald Trump calls for peace. On Truth Social, he offered to broker a deal between the U.S. and Ukraine to end the war. Referencing the sabotage on the Nord Stream pipelines, he wrote, "This is a big event that should not entail a big solution, at least not yet. The Russian-Ukraine catastrophe should never have happened. It would definitely not have happened if I were president," said Trump. "There are catastrophic leaks in the Nord Stream pipeline that followed massive undersea explosions, blah, blah, blah." Okay. U.S. leadership should remain cool, calm, and dry on the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines, Trump wrote. Everybody knows who did it. "Do not make matters worse with the pipeline blow-up. Be smart. Get a negotiated deal done now. Both sides need and want it. The entire world is at stake. I will head up that group." Now, let's be honest about this. I thought Trump was a crazy person. I thought he was a madman. I thought he was a madman. Let me see if I can find that. Do you remember when just before Trump left, when look at this. Here's another argument. Here's another article. Look and see if you remember this one. I got to put this one forward. Look at this one. Milley acted to prevent Trump from misusing nuclear weapons. War with China, book says. Okay, so look, he acted to prevent Trump from nuclear weapons, war with China. He had to stop him, had to prevent him. Now, I haven't even read this article, but let's go down it. Their book said that in the days before the 2020 election, Milley also acted to prevent a potential conflict with China. The book, now listen, a minute ago he said, now if you read the article, they had to stop Trump. He was getting ready to go to war with China. But when you read it, it says, the book said Milley received intelligence that Chinese officials believed the U.S. was getting ready to attack them. Wait a minute. A minute ago, wait a minute. They had to prevent Trump from misusing nuclear war, right? They had to prevent him from war with China. That's pretty cut and dried. But when you go that, he received intelligence that Chinese officials believed the U.S. was ready to attack them, right? And it says he called them and said the American government's stable, we're not going to attack. Well, things certainly have changed. Let's see something. Milley, war with China. I'm just going to search. I don't know what I'm going to find. Uh, so the bottom line is everything you read now. Um, I don't see much on here, but you get my point. Let's just say this. That ain't exactly the position under the Biden administration, is it? Hey, we don't want any war with China. They're preparing for war with China. That was all bull crap. It was just anti-Trump crap. Hey, we got to stop Trump from wanting a war with China. So bottom line is this. So now Donald Trump is saying, listen, this is crazy. We got that. But who else? Dr. Jeffrey Sachs says, look, you're moving towards escalating towards a nuclear war. We got to get we need turn the volume down and back off of this thing. We need to get a diplomacy. Who else? Elon Musk. Hey, dudes, look, man, we need diplomacy. We need to back down on that war with Russia and China. Right now, look at who was it? Musk, General, what's his name? Millen, the guy who is the former chief of staff, excuse me, the former chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I think it's Admiral Mark Millen. He came out and said, we need a deal as quick as possible. We got to get this stopped. So the voices are getting louder. People are looking, Mullen, that's it. The voices are getting louder. People are like, look, this is bullshit, man. You guys are, this is too dangerous. Now, if you think about Trump, if you think about Elon Musk, here's something that makes sense. They're rich. They're rich. And rich people are like, dude, I got babes. I got loot. I got big houses. I got golf course. I got everything. I got airplane, private planes and helicopters. I got all that. A nuclear war and it's all gone, and me too. What's the point of this? And I mean, think about it. They got a lot further to fall than you and I. I'm an average middle class guy, got a home and, a car and odds and ends. I'm surviving. I'm here. I'm around, right? I'm the average schmuck. I'm not some rich guy. I'm an average Joe working to make a living. You know what I mean? I had a daughter and raised my child and the things that people do, right? We would like to go fishing or whatever, wandering around, just an average, regular old American schmuck enjoying life, right? But imagine if I had houses in Florida and in New York and in California and all this kind of stuff. You're thinking, man, this shit is nice. This is nice. I do not want to lose this. That's the bottom line. And that's where we are. Now we got all these rich people who are like, screw this. This is totally uncool. Oh my God. I see what appears to be a mosquito. Oh, well, he'll just survive for now. At any rate, my point is, in my house, I'm like, oh my God, that's a mosquito. Oh, well, it is what it is. No, that ain't a mosquito. It's a different kind of bug. Anyway, I digress. So I think it's good. I think we're starting to see what one would expect, and that is the longer this goes on, more people are getting cold feet. So that's good. Somebody says China is the what Cheney is the rhino Hillary. That's good. Look, they're just they're the same person. You put a label in front of them, Republican, Democrat, rhino, whatever. They're all the same person. They're the war party. Just call them the war party. Doesn't matter if they're Republican, Democrat, or whatever. They're members of the war party. Okay. I think a couple of things that's interesting. So let's talk about this Trump. Let's talk about politics. One of the reasons I think it's interesting is because of their one thing about people who follow Trump, the MAGA people, they're very loyal to Trump. They're very, very loyal. And if Donald Trump says, "Look, I don't think we should go in this direction," and I mean, it's not unreasonable. Gee, imagine that. Hey, man, I don't think we should do things that are going to wipe out all life on Earth. Yeah, I think you got a point there, buddy. So that being the case, what will happen now is a lot of the Republican, what has Trump got? 80 some percent approval, upper 80 some percent approval in the Republican Party. I think Donald Trump saying that now puts the neocons in the Republican Party in a difficult position, right? Can they attack Trump? No, hell no, they can't attack Trump because if they attack Trump, they can't win. He's too popular. Can they push back against Trump? Well, I think you're wrong, Donald Trump. We need to continue this war. Well, I don't know how much you know about Donald Trump. He don't like getting pushed against. So if some guy's running and they say, "What do you think about what Trump said?" He says, Trump's wrong." Oh, Trump will have his ass. Trump will be it's a good thing they took him off Twitter. Trump will be like, "Yeah, that guy's an idiot. He's a moron. He's a warmonger. He might as well be with the Democrats," right? So if a member of the mainstream Republican Party hears about this, they're in a tight spot. Because if they want to continue to be beloved by the warmongers, they got to put him down. But they're going to lose their seat because Donald Trump, is infectious in the that's what I'm looking for. I think Trump is infectious in the Republican Party, and I think when he says he's got a foreign cleavage site, believe it or not, if you've been following the whole COVID, Donald Trump has the equivalent of a foreign cleavage protein site politically. And when he comes up to the Republican Party and says, "Let me in," the Republican Party says, "Yes, sir, here you go." Again, referring to the old foreign cleavage site on the on COVID. There's a lot of people who don't know that, get that joke, that illusion. So anyway, so now that he's saying that, there's a lot of Republicans that are going to go, it makes sense because they like Trump and they think Trump is brilliant and they think it makes sense. And you know what? Here's the other part of it. And it makes sense. So he's going to drag the Republican Party kicking and screaming away from the war party in some ways and shape and form. So that's interesting. It also puts him in a situation where it just creates a jam for the Republican Party, a major jam. And what happens if he starts to run? The mainstream Republicans are on board with the war party and then the Biden team. So if Trump runs and he says, "Look, elect me and I end this thing," which I don't think it's going to be around that long. I think the Republicans are going to end, excuse me, I think the Russians are going to end it before then. But at any rate, what happens? And Trump is going to be standing around giving them "I told you so." I told you guys. And guess what's going to happen? As Europe falls apart and falls into disarray, which we're also going to talk about, Trump's going to be there saying, "I told you so." Trump's going to be saying, "You should have listened to me. I told you to end this. I told you, I told you, I told you." And he's going to be looking like, yeah, he was right. It's going to be hard to argue. There's going to be a lot of "I told you so's," and Trump's going to be one of them. So I think it's very important to pay attention to what's going on right now, particularly a month before the midterms. What could happen in Ukraine? There could be some dramatic turnaround. Something could go down there. Also, let me tell you this. It has brought Trump to the forefront. He's out talking again. What's going to happen as the gas prices go through the roof over the next couple of weeks, as I suspect they will? It's the 11th, and the price of gas is climbing. What happens if the price of gas goes through the roof? I suspect the Biden team, they're dumping every ounce of oil out of strategic reserves they can onto the market because they got a couple of weeks. And if the oil price goes up like 50 cents, $1 a gallon, people ain't going to be happy. They'll be complaining about it, and you don't want them to be complaining on election day. So things aren't looking good for the Democrats coming up to election day. The universe is conspiring against them at this time. Well, okay, the Saudis are conspiring against them, but somebody's conspiring them against them. It doesn't matter. The universe, the Saudis, you pick it, your choice. And Donald Trump's going around, and I'm happy to hear Donald Trump going around saying, "We got to end this, we got to end this," and joining the voices. Noam Chomsky, more and more voices are starting to say, "We got to end this." So I think that's a good thing. At the same time, that I think what's going to happen, the Russians are planning, I think, some kind of a big hit. I think they've made a turn, and there are going to be a lot of bombings, a lot going on to really hurt the, I think at this point, I think they're going to call. They're going to call out the dogs on them. I don't think it's going to be pussyfooting around in Ukraine anymore. I don't think it's going to be letting the infrastructure go. I think they're going to come down hard, and I think that the timing in that is real bad for the Ukrainians. Here's what I mean. They just did something. They threw all their people out, and they did some offensives so they could get some good press, right? And they took some small burgs and towns here and there, and they got good press, but the losses were astronomical. So they don't have the reserves. So now two things are going to happen at the same time. When the Ukrainians are hurting because they've had their reserves have been hit and they've thrown a lot of people out there and they've taken a lot of losses. At the same time, the Republicans are going to, I mean, excuse me, I keep saying that. The Russians are going to build up on the other side and make their move at the worst possible time for the Ukrainians, because I think they're weakened right now because they made those big offensives. I think they're weak as a result afterwards, and the Russians are going to be their strongest. Things are going to be going in the wrong direction for the Ukrainians, in a real bad direction. Now let's talk about, let's move on to, so all that's going to happen at a time when Trump and his team are going to be out there saying, back off. And a lot of people who like Trump are going to say, look, however I feel about this, if I want to maintain any manner of credibility in a Republican Party, I got to go along with Trump. If I want to maintain any amount of horsepower here, then, I mean, what's Fox News going to do? Hey, Trump's an idiot. They better not. They won't have anybody watching. So Trump creates an interesting scenario and an interesting dynamic for the Republican Party and those on the hangers-on on the right who are pro-war. We'll see how that happens. As Trump says, I ain't going for that. So who's going to have the gonad? Who's going to have the gonads to go in the Republican Party to go after Trump? Because here's the other thing: if they go after Trump, Trump's a Russian bot. You know, Trump's coming out swinging. You better not go after Trump if you're a Republican, because he's going to he loves a fight. He loves a fight, and he's going to come out punching. So let's watch the dynamic. Let's hopefully watch if Donald Trump continues. And I think also with Trump, if he sees it getting some traction, he sees people listening, I think he'll increase it. And he'll start getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. Watch how the Democrats respond. What are they going to do? He's a Russian bot. We already knew it. That ain't going to go far, because the numbers say more and more Americans want this thing ended. Right. And as the price of gas goes up and as other thing goes up, if Trump ties those things together too, hey, you're paying more because of this. So let's keep an eye on that. Now let's move on to Europe. In Europe, do I have the protests up? Doggone it. I don't have my protests up. You know, sometimes you gotta, I gotta lean extra far because I got this thing. Bottom line. So what's going down? The protests are really picking up. We've seen people now we're seeing people in Italy. We're seeing people in Paris. We're seeing people in Germany. We're seeing people in Czechoslovakia, on and on. But what are they doing? They haven't put 2 and 2 together yet, but they will. We've got a lot of protests over the prices. Wake up, Europeans. There's a reason that your prices are so high. And it's because you don't have cheap Russian energy anymore. That's what's killing you. That's what's destroying you, wiping you out, deindustrializing you, etc. And you can either accept that or you can fight back. It's up to you. You wait till it's too late, you still fight back, and it's still going to happen. It's up to you. But they're taken to the streets. We knew it was going to happen. Now, of course, the mainstream media and the mainstream people have a plan. They're just going to pretend it's not happening and not put it on the news as if it's going to go away. It ain't going to go away. So now we're starting to see the very beginning of the protests, and they are growing. And that's going to, now here's the thing. So what you're going to get is a number of things all coming together at the same time. Number one, I expect, could be wrong, I expect within the next 60 to 90 days, you're going to see Ukraine get clobbered pretty hard. They're going to get hit hard, early, hard, and often, right? I suspect when the ground freezes, you'll see some Russian moves. As the ground freezes, you'll see some Russian offensives. You'll see some hard hits on them. They're coming. They're coming, and they're going to hit hard. So you're going to see things going in the wrong direction in Ukraine, right? You're going to see in the U.S., you're going to see people starting to scream louder here. We want to, it's getting louder already. You're going to see we need a negotiated deal, right? So Biden's going to be sitting there, and things in Ukraine are going to be going south for the Ukrainians. The Trumps of the world and other people in the world are going to be here screaming, we want a negotiated settlement. We want diplomacy, right? Meanwhile, the people of Europe are going to say, we want blood, the blood of our leaders. And as I said, don't forget, people get violent. I suspect violence will occur. I suspect that if, in fact, the European leaders don't listen, which they can't, they won't. If they don't act on behalf of their leaders, which they won't and they can't, that there will be violence. And either one of two things is going to happen in Europe. I'll tell you this right now. Either the leaders are going to change course, or the people of Europe will be violent and they will burn and pillage and tear Europe from one city after city. There'll be overturned cars. They already said it. You remember a while back, there was articles where the German leaders were saying, we expect violent protests. They're all ready for it. They don't give a shit. Annalena Baerbock said, I don't care. They can protest if they want. They're not getting what they want. This is not a democracy here. Do not fool yourself. Right? So the Europeans, so what happens when they completely take to the streets and flip out? They will finally be woken up to the reality that they're not in a democracy, that they're colonies of the U.S. empire, and those colonies are now being sacrificed. That we're going to sacrifice the lives of the Ukrainians, their cannon fodder. We're going to sacrifice the economic health of the rest of Europe, their economic cannon fodder. And when the Europeans wake up to that, there's going to be violence. Some of these leaders of the European League, bad things could happen to them, my friends. Bad things. They better get out of Dodge. And so all of those things are going to be coming together at the same time. Europe's out of oil, out of gas, and they're in horrific economic shape. There will be collapses. What happens? Let's say Germany, let's say the UK, they're the canary in the coal mine. What happens if the pound collapses? What happens if the UK, if their economy collapses, which seems to be the direction it's heading now, and they have a runaway inflation, 50, 100, 200%. Now the pound is worth 25 cents. Pound is worth 10 cents. What happens then? And now the money people are making, they can't do anything. The economy collapses. Again, what happens? Because at that point, you have hunger, you have crime, you have violence. That's what's coming. And the UK is nothing but the canary in a coal mine. Things are moving in a direction now. The UK, I believe, may be weeks, if not days, away from economic collapse. How is Liz Truss et al. Going to say the economy has collapsed? Our people are in the street. They're starving. They can't pay for anything anymore. Basically, their electric bill is the equivalent of 5 years' pay. But we got to hold out for Ukraine. That's a good way to get lynched. They'll go back to the feudal days when when a king lost their job back then. You know how they lost their job? They didn't ask them kindly to leave. It was the French Revolution, right? So when the UK's economic collapse hits, right? Again, what are you going to have? You're going to have the people. Now, the UK leaders, certainly, they ain't going to call Biden and say, oh my God, what are we going to do? We got to make a move. No, the UK leaders are going to call Biden and say, don't worry, we're going to hold out. We don't care. We may lose. The UK leaders will like call Biden and say, look, Joe, the way we're looking at it right now, our country has fallen. Probably half the people in this country are going to die an ungodly death of misery with festering boils, the ones that don't starve. We're looking at about losing half the population. Don't worry about it. We're good. We kind of counted on about half of the population, 60% max that we thought we'd lose. So we're good. We got you. We're going to go back on TV and tell everybody we're sticking with Ukraine. They can eat their blue and yellow flags or something like that, right? That's the UK. They don't give a shit about the people. Yeah, come on, Liz Truss, Bojo, Keir Starmer. Do you think they're really going to be like, boy, the people are suffering? Whatever are we going to do? I have so much empathy. I think not. That ain't happening. They're just going to say, hey, you know what? The littles are dying, and that's life and death in this circumstance. But there are other countries that may not be as. I'll put it like this: Eastern European countries, a bunch of them ain't doing that. So the bottom line is this: all that rambling gets down to this: the situation within the next couple months will be when the UK collapses, which it's about to. Other countries are going to be looking at that saying, oh boy, is our economy going to collapse? And some of them are going to be calling Joe Biden. They're going to be talking to each other. They're going to be calling Joe Biden. And you know what the Russians are going to be doing? You know what the Turks are going to be doing? The Chinese and the Iranians are going to be sitting there with their hands crossed saying, well, guys. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Know-it-alls. You got to stand up against Russia. You got to stand up against China. Oh, what is that now? We've got a Pacific NATO where NATO has to go out in the Pacific and confront China. How you going to do that when you got no food at home? How you going to do that when the lights are off and you got rolling blackouts? But yet you got to go confront everybody else. Now, keep in mind, the U.S., the EU is one of our biggest customers. What the hell is the U.S. going to do? You think it ain't going to hurt us when the EU falls? And when country after country starts collapsing and they can't buy any of our stuff or our services, or we can't use them anymore? So it's coming from all directions on Dark Brandon very shortly. Dark Brandon's going to be facing Trump and his people screaming at the top of their lungs, some saying we need a resolution. Some of these other billionaires are going to be saying we don't want to die in a nuclear catastrophe. We want a resolution. They're going to be getting calls from countries in Europe that are saying our country's collapsing. And oh, by the way, the people in the street said they're going to kill me. They said they don't want me out. No. They don't want me out of office. They want me to stay in office long enough for them to get their stinking hands around my neck because they want to choke me to death with their bare hands. Joe Biden, that ain't a good option. We need a way out. That's what they're going to be saying in France and Spain and Germany and stuff like that, in Italy. That's what they're going to have no choice but to say that. Otherwise, they will get choked. Otherwise, there will be some cuts. There will be major cuts, and those cuts will come from a guillotine. So my point being, and let me add this, if that ain't bad enough, Joe Biden's going to be facing all of that at the same time that the Ukrainian military is collapsing, at the same time that he's lost in the midterms and the Republicans are rubbing their hands together saying, well, looks like we got some investigating to do, don't we? Hand me those papers on Hunter Biden, if you would. Fauci. Who's this Fauci guy? Perhaps we need to look into what Fauci's doing. And they can't give a redact. What are they going to do? They gave everybody else redacted emails for Fauci, redacted emails for the CDC. They can't do that for Congress, can they? And when the Republicans get it, you know they're going to leak every damn word. Everything Fauci did, they're going to leak. I don't have a lot of confidence on the Republicans when it comes to investigating Hunter Biden, because the only thing they're going to investigate is what Hunter Biden's doing in China, what he did in China. They're going to try to find a way to say, well, there you go, we need war with China. They're going to investigate on behalf of the national security state. But I think they're going to look into Fauci pretty well. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens. There will at least be some in the Republican Party who want to look into it. So we'll see. My bottom line is this. Again, Joe Biden's in the middle, shit's hitting the fan. Calls from Europe. Oh my God, the people want to kill me and they're hungry and their country's falling apart. Calls from Ukraine. We're in the bunker and the Russians are bombing the shit out of us and they don't seem like they want to stop. Calls from the US. Trump and his people are saying in the war now, and there's a whole bunch of other billionaires doing that, right? The economy screaming. Gas prices through the roof. On and on and on, right? They're going to, Biden, I suspect by the end of the year and by the end of this year, you screw around, our economy may be, very, very, I would expect if the UK collapses, let's not forget, London's big money, dude. London is a place where a lot of money around the world is parked. If I am a country or anybody and I got my money parked in London, I'm getting it the hell out right now. You'd be an idiot to leave your money in London because it's falling apart. And gold too, because they'll steal it and keep it. Ask Venezuela. So as the city of London collapses, what's going to happen on Wall Street? Right? So you're going to be looking at a 2008. Just a mess is coming. A mess is coming for Dark Brandon and his people. I thought George Bush screwed everything up. George Bush was stupid, but he started something with a smaller country. It was evil. It was unthinkable. But he wasn't risking nuclear war, because even though they lied and said they thought they were risking nuclear war, they knew they weren't. And now by Dark Brandon, Dark, people say, are you saying Darth? Dark Brandon, right? D-A-R-K. Dark Brandon and his crew, they're risking nuclear war. But they're really stupid and they've set themselves up for a catastrophe. How does the president of the United States deal with an economic crash, which is coming, with allies in Europe saying our countries are falling apart, we can't hold the line anymore, with their proxy war, the greatest proxy war of all time? They finally got this Ukrainian army, and now they're going to stand up to Russia, and their proxy army is getting blown to hell. The people, the opposition party here, if there is such a thing, is investigating the hell out of the president. There was something interesting last Saturday Night Live, which is, these people literally did a skit where they sung "We Wish You a Mueller Christmas." I mean, neoliberal ground zero, right? And they did a skit, a comedy skit, where they joked about Joe Biden's competency, right? What does that mean? That means that there are some people in power who are looking at Joe Biden thinking, we might have to drop this guy. So I think it is possible that after the midterm elections goes down, the party might throw his ass to they might say, well, there's a lot of bad things going on and they're all Joe Biden's fault. He's got to go. Now they got Kamala Harris, and let's face it, she's no, Einstein by any stretch of the imagination, but they may just say, we're in desperate shape. We got to throw Dark Brandon to the side. And plus she's an idiot. So we can just tell her what to say. We'll just stick a stick up her butt like a puppet and tell her what to say, and she'll say it. So they may go that route with Kamala Harris and just say, well, yeah, she's an idiot. So, hey, maybe that works even better. Right. But they got problems. And and here's the other thing. What happens if there is this destruction of biblical proportions of the Democratic Party? And internally, there are going to be people in the party saying, what do we do? Because we can't take another round of this destruction or we're gone. There's nothing left of us. There are going to be people asking serious questions to the Democratic Party, and questions that they can't even ask or answer. Hey, what do we need to fix? You know what the Democratic Party is going to say? It's the far left that got us. The people that were saying that everybody needed health care and we needed to stop the wars, the far left. Now, in the Democrats' idea of far left is actually the right. The far left, who? The far left, the people that we hate. They won't ever say policy-wise, but they'll just say they're far left. Those are the people that caused us. What do you need to do? We need to double down on the warmongering. But meanwhile, on the other side, you're going to have Trump punching the shit out of him and his forces saying, Dark Brandon, we need to end the war. And of course, you're going to be getting those calls from overseas. So Dark Brandon and his crew will be in the position that they have put themselves in and that they so richly deserve to be in. And I'm looking forward to that kind of pressure on them, because that kind of pressure may create an environment where there may have to be some level of negotiation to end it. Now let's talk about that last but not least, negotiation to end it. Why the hell would the Russians negotiate with Dark Brandon? Why would they negotiate with Jens Stoltenberg and Borrell and these people? People that come on and say, we hate you, hate you, hate you. We hate all Russians. They're like, come up with the N word for Russians. Oh, they're calling them orcs, whatever the case, right? So you got a bunch of people that say, I hate you, I despise you, everyone who looks like you. You can't even, if you're Russian, we hate you. You can't come to our country. You can't play sports with us. We're just total racists. The racism of the liberal class is absolutely showing when it comes to Russians. They're not saying we're mad at this Russian, that Russian, all Russians, simply because you're Russian. They hate you. Just because you're Russian, your ethnicity is good enough. So their racism is showing, right? So when they say to the Russians, oh my God, we're in a world of deep and serious shit. Okay, guys, we're ready to negotiate. The Russians are going to say negotiate. We had Minsk agreements. You remember that? Last time we negotiated was the Minsk Accords, and you bastards broke them. And Petro Poroshenko came out and said, the former president of Ukraine said, the only reason we did the Minsk Accords was to hold the Russians off until we could get enough military to go to war with them. And you think they're going to negotiate with you again? You think you're going to be like, okay, my bad, let's negotiate again. We need a way out. They're like constantly, we've got to get Putin an off-ramp. Yeah, there's projection. There's projection. So you're going to be like, yeah, we hate you. We want to do everything to destroy you. Oh, shit, things have turned against us. Okay, you know what, Putin, we need a deal. And their deal is going to be something like, we need a deal. The deal is you give us everything. You give everything back. You give all of the money your country makes to Zelensky and his cocaine-fueled crew, and do whatever we want for all of eternity. And then how's that sound? And Putin's going to be like, yeah, right. No, thanks. We'll just keep doing what we're doing. You guys are good. We're good. We don't want to hear from you. The Russians can't trust them. Look at the Iranians. They the U.S. Walks out of the nuclear deal. That was Trump. And now Biden says, I'll get back in the nuclear deal. And he can't get back in the nuclear deal. He can't do it. They don't have the ability, because they would have to lower themselves to the standards and say, we have to respect the Iranians. They can't respect anybody. They're neocons, no respect for anybody. They can't ever do that, so they can't get a deal with Iran, which means they can't get a deal with the Russians. So as they get real heat on them to get a deal and they call Russia, these arrogant bastards are just going to say, we need a deal with Russia and you guys have to give us everything that we want. That's the deal. And the Russians are going to say, even if you give us everything we want, we still can't give you the deal because we don't trust you. And so in order to get a deal with Russia right now, at this point, it's bend over and grab your ankles. That's the only way. You see deliverance? That's the only way they're going to get a deal with Russia. They're going to have to squeal like the proverbial pigs. And at some point, they're going to be in such bad shape, they may have to do that. But when they come to Russia for a deal, when and if, they're in such bad shape that because I suspect the time's going to come when Europe is going to need gas so bad. What is Europe going to do when people are freezing to death? They're going to, hey, we want a deal. And I suspect Russia will be like, yeah, we had one. It was called the Minsk Accords. Okay, we'll sign back up for the Minsk Accords. I think not. We've done that. We played that game and you signed a deal and you didn't keep it. So you're going to have to do something a little different this time. You're going to have to give us everything. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have to, we're going to say, we want you to do this, 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 and you're going to have to do it before we start giving up the gas, before we back off of Ukraine. You're going to have to give us everything we want first, and then we'll might deal with you. I think that's what they're going to end up with. They're going to end up on the bad side of a good deal. on the bad side, I mean, my dad used to say that, don't ever end up on the bad side of a good deal, right? Well, guess what? That's what they're going to end up on, the bad side of a good deal at some point. And I think when you'll see the beginning of that, when you see that start, is when you see the UK either economic collapse of the pound, hyperinflation, something in there that signals they've gone over the edge. They've gone over the waterfall, right? Economically. When you see the UK go over the waterfall, that's when it will become unmanageable and ungovernable. Once a country goes over that economic waterfall and people see no prospect for getting fixed, when they look up and see Liz Truss, it doesn't exactly inspire hope. Hey, we're in a world of trouble. Let's go to the prime minister. Oh, shit, it's Liz Truss. We're fucked. That's it. What do you think's going to happen? Are you kidding me? We're up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. Liz Truss. So the best that the UK can do is can Liz Truss and put Keir Starmer in there. You know what Keir Starmer's plans will be? The same. Hey, we got to support Israel no matter what, and Ukraine no matter what. What about the people that are starving and dying and impoverished? Yeah, well, hey, we've counted it out, and as long as we don't lose more than 61.7% of the population to starvation and death, we're good. That's part of the whole reset thing, the planet can only hold but so many people. You got to cull the herd a little bit every now and then, Sir Keir Starmer will say. Got to cull the herd a little bit. Right now, we're culling the herd. COVID culled the herd, but it didn't cull the herd quite enough for us. So now we got to cull the herd some more. The old herd's growing, and we got to de-herd. Denazification, they're going to de-peopleification if they get their way. And I suspect, again, there will be violence. There will be, as the movie said, there will be blood. Oh, there will. What was that? There was a movie called There Will Be Blood. And what was the movie with the guy and that had the little weird puppet thing on the tricycle? Oh, there will be blood. You get the point, right? So at any rate, so that's it. So here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start checking for super chats. All right, Vita in DC. Garland, did you read Blinken's book yet? No, I haven't gotten it. I don't get it until the end of October, so I'm going to read it by then. Oh, things are going to be real spicy. Real spicy. Okay, we got Reggae Earth United. Hey, that's cool. Former French presidential candidate Jane Lassalle says President Macron is not vaxxed. Oh, okay. That's interesting. It would be interesting. Wouldn't shock me. Ivandro Pomadi. I bet the guillotines are being sharpened right now. It all makes sense why people chop some rich heads off in the past. Yes, sometimes there's got to be some cuts. There's got to be cuts in order to make things work. How about this? Pogel, the Lesser 1977 says, I mean, it will not survive. Johnny Walker. I mean, it will not survive to see its 300th. Okay, we're going to get the Pogel. I know you said something else earlier that I missed. Here we go. I'm getting to say this once again, Garland. This country will see its 300th birthday in continuity. Will not. So he's saying it won't. Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what it'll be. Here's the thing. Let me say this. Keep in mind something. When people talk about empires crashing, it can be done. It can be done. And an empire can survive crashing. The British Empire crashed, and the British Empire survived. But in a way, it only survived because it outsourced all of its empire stuff to the U.S. So what happens when the British Empire crashes and the U.S. Empire, falls apart and it can't? So, but the bottom line is, empires can survive. People can survive after empires crash. It's not the end of the world. Let's go. I hope Trump can come back and try to talk to North Korea again. Okay. Let's look at this. Here we got Sparky, good old Sparky. Same media which said Trump was a madman is the same media which said Ukraine invasion was unprovoked and Putin's bad. Trump's a madman, Putin's a madman, Maduro's a madman, Assad's a madman. Have you noticed the pattern? As soon as the CIA and the U.S. government says we want to overthrow somebody, the leader of that country becomes a madman. Why are you supporting the madman? Let's keep going. I think that's it. All right, we're going to the bottom anymore. Don't forget tomorrow morning, Scott Ritter. All right, now we are going to make a big move, and we're going to check out. Oh, we got some people over here on Rockfin. And on Rockfin, here's what we got. John McCarthy. Thanks a lot, John McCarthy. Bill Wilson, thank you. Okay, Zach says, Tulsi must address the WEF CFR globalist history, and its opposition must become part of our identity, not hidden away or comment blowing it off. It's a massive issue with her credibility, the more so considering her new unnatural rebranding to target a new audience. Her love of drone strikes also really bothers me. Garland 2024, you embody a natural and honest way that Tulsi doesn't have. Hey, let me tell you something. It ain't out of the question that Garland might not run for president. It ain't out of the question. Not a high probability. I'll give it about, right now, 10%, but that could grow. Just for the hell of it. Why not? Everybody should run for president. And it is possible. It is possible. Anybody else? What's this say? Gray Zone says Bojo blew the bridge. Sure. Gay Superman movie canceled. Oh, gay Superman movie. All righty. I guess what is he'd be a gender non-specific superhero or something. What the hell kind of uniform would they put on him? I don't know. Brains will splatter now and later. Okay. Lynn Byers says, oh, it's just a tip. Thanks a lot, Lynn. They're tipping away over there. Thanks a lot, everybody. Okay. Thomas Hutchinson. Thank you very much, Thomas. That's it. So, a couple of things. Thanks, everybody, for the super chats. I'm just about tired, so I'm getting ready to throw. Wow, it's 8:30 already here in Maryland on the beautiful shores of the Chesapeake Bay. I love the Chesapeake Bay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Scott Ritter. Don't forget, Scott Ritter, 9 a.m. every Wednesday morning. Please do me a favor. Make sure you, everybody, smash that darn like button. 1,269 people. So there's no way I should have less than 1,269 likes. Thank you very much. I had a great time doing the Julian Assange event. I spoke at a Julian Assange event over the weekend in Washington, D.C. That was fantastic. I was really happy to hang out with some Assange supporters, and we had a good old time. And Jimmy Dore's coming to town Thursday. I'm going to the Jimmy Dore show. That's going to be great. So here we go. If you can help to keep the channel going, I certainly appreciate it. buymeacoffee.com/GarlandNH. Rockfin, to make sure everybody that's a member here become a member of my Rockfin channel, rockfin.com/Garland Nixon, just in case they throw me out off of YouTube. Rockfin is there, and you can always go to Rockfin and you can watch me there if they throw me off of YouTube. Also, remember, Rockfin, you can become a free member. However, there's an option there to be $9.99 to be a premium member. That's a big help to the, I appreciate all the premium members. Please, those who can afford it, those who can't, don't worry. Just become a member. You'll see just become a free member. Or subscriber, you'll see 99.9% of my stuff. If you can do the $9.99 a month on Rockfin, it's highly appreciated. Of course, we've got PayPal. You can see that, garlandin@gmail.com. Buy me a coffee if you can do something there. Cash App, everything's there. Patreon, of course, if you can do $3, $5, $1 million a month, whatever you can do is appreciated. Tomorrow morning, on Wednesday morning, That's the when I do on Rockfin, we do one premium show. Rockfin people, we do one content creators do one premium show per week, at least a minimum of. Mine is Wednesday morning with Scott Ritter. I do the first 20 minutes on YouTube and everywhere else, and then the other 40 minutes, I will be on exclusively on Rockfin. And you have to be a member, the $9.99 a month, to watch the other 40 minutes of Scott Ritter with me. And that's the only difference. But I appreciate it. It helps the channel, and I appreciate everybody that can do that. If you can't, that's fine. You'll see everything. I love all my people, and we get along great. I appreciate that. All right. I'm looking any more. Nope, that's it. So thanks a lot, everybody. Let me see anybody else has something to say. The Fed would assassinate Biden before he pushed the button. Yeah, I wish that were true. My band is called Stinkbait. Hey, that's a cool name. Wasn't that what you used for catfish or something? Perverted psychopaths in Washington, D.C. will never let Julian Assange to see the light of day when they extradite him, and they will extradite him. Good point. U.S. leadership, non-competent. Russian leadership, not effing around. Good for Tulsi. Now she can hang out with Assad and advise on how to gas children to death peacefully. Oh, there we go. We got a troll in the room, Mark. We got trolls. It's some trolls in this house. There was a house song that used to go like that. It's some trolls in this house. Let's see. But you know what? Trolls are good too. Don't hate on trolls. There's a place for trolls. In the same way that if you have a soup, right? You're making soup. You got to have a little salt. You got to have a little hot spices. You got to have a little pepper. So Mark's the troll. You got to have a troll. You know, they help fill out the room so somebody can give you you can know what the CIA's thinking. You know, like Mark. If it wasn't for Mark, we would have nobody to remind us that the CIA and the warmongers are out there saying, yeah, Putin, Assad, Maduro. So good work, Mark. Keep up the good trolling. World has too many people in it. Yep, according to the WEF. See you guys on Rockfin. A million sounds good. The elites in the world do not care about their own citizens, including the USA. We are all expendable. I go one better. It's not that we're expendable. We're fuel. They literally want to burn us as fuel for their ungodly project. Assange should sue Hillary out of existence. We got anything else? Sour trolls for sweet and sour flavor. There you go. That's perfect. Exactly. We don't hate trolls. We welcome trolls. We love trolls too. All users are trolls. Embrace it. There we go. And very sour trolls. You got to love your trolls. You got to get a oneness with your trolls. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a oneness with my trolls a long time ago. I'm not trying to hate my trolls. Down with hating trolls. Use of micro nukes leads to mini nukes, then big nukes. And think about it. A micro nuke. What is that? Well, that only kills 100,000 people. A paltry 100,000 people. Oh yeah, and then all of the fallout floats across the country and makes 500,000 square miles uninhabitable. Other than that, they're just very tiny little things. In 1948, the U.S. passed a law called the Smith-Mundt Act. The Smith-Mundt Act. I know it well. Barack Obama. That's where you're going, which forbid the CIA to propagandize to the U.S., even though they did it anyway. In 2013, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was passed that allowed it. Think about that. That's it. They changed it. You are correct. You are correct. Anything else? Washington, D.C. is world headquarters for the organized crime city. It cannot be reformed, but it will fall. It's only a matter of how and when. Here's what I've said about Americans. Americans think they're on a luxury liner. They're on a pirate ship. It's the Jolly Roger, my friends. The Americans think, oh, we're so wise and smart and intellectual and we work so hard there for our country. No! Our government goes around and robs the hell out of people, steals their bananas, their cacao, steals their gold, steals their whatever they got. Our government are a bunch of pirates. They go steal people's stuff. They say Putin is a madman without skipping a beat. They say we don't have to worry about Putin pressing the button. He's a madman, just like Saddam Hussein and bin Laden, just like who else? I guess madman status is coming for him. Maduro, now you know he's a madman. Then there's Noria, what's his name in Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega. Well, he's a madman. Or anyone in this world who leads a country and says we're not going to allow the U.S. to tell us what to do. We want to chart our own course. That is the definition of a madman. In Joe Biden's first quarter, he was to meet Putin 1 week before a cyber attack on a U.S. oil company, half the MSA, happened. The MSN blamed Russia after Biden said it wasn't Russia. So who was it? It was CIA, Ukraine, of course. All right. Well, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody, on Rockfin. And tomorrow morning, I will be with the one and only Scott Rita. Peace. I'm out.